Alright, guys, welcome to ARWP, the All Real Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Eric Novak of the Wrestling Republic, and today I have a huge guest. He is one quarter, right? It would be quarter member of the Undisputed Era?
Yes.
Formerly?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
And he is also part of one of the greatest tag teams in all of pro wrestling. He is the infamous Bobby Fish.
Hey, what's up, my friend?
Man, it is an honor. And I know, I've messaged you a few times and I've said this already, but it is truly an honor because I know everybody is waiting to hear from you. And I'm sure you understand that. And I'm sure you've, took a lot of time to think about what you would say about certain topics. And it's just amazing that we get to see you now in anywhere now. You know what I mean? You go back home to, you can wrestle in Ring of Honor, wrestle in New Japan. We're going to see you in MLW. I get to see you live. It's an exciting world we're living in right now.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. The idea that there are options and that the options is a world that I have not been a part of for going on 4 years now. So having that back in play, it's really interesting to see how the wrestling world outside of where I was has changed. The landscape has changed so much since, going to work where I was, and happy to be, So it's definitely an interesting time, and I'm excited. We'll see. I don't know exactly where I'm landing, but that's part of what makes it exciting.
All right, so let's talk about, the first question is, it's been a while since you've been a free agent, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of knocks on the doors. How does it feel to now be able to respond and see? Because when you wrestled for, the major companies, they took control of a lot of your social media stuff. They took control of a lot of your bookings. How does it feel now to just leave, from when independent wrestling was, I believe, really closed off? There was a lot less shows than there are now, a lot less promotions, and now you're probably getting messages like crazy with different kind of promotions, different kind of independent shows. How's that all like?
It's interesting. It's humbling all at the same time. To think that we, as a group, in the time that we were with WWE, had the impact that we had, and honestly, it was like it wasn't even really going to work. It was, hanging with three of my best friends in the business, and that's truly what it came down to. So to think that we got paid to do that is still mind-boggling at times. So to have the options out there now and the landscape be what it is, it's humbling to get the attention. I think that'll always be, because I still, it's perspective, and it's hard not to, my kids put it into perspective really well for me, because I have two daughters and a stepdaughter, and my two daughters, they don't really, I don't know, wrestling is something that they don't really care about. And I'm just dad, and same with my stepdaughter. And I think that helps me be level-headed and understand that this is fleeting, and, it's easy. I find it much easier to be humbled by it than anything else.
Yeah, it's great.
Especially anybody cares.
I think it's amazing that, outside of, your family, wrestling isn't the main priority, and it's not like the main question, stuff like that. So it's good that you have a separation from wrestling. The whole thing about wrestling is it's very psychological, and it's difficult in many ways to travel and do this. So it's good that when you get home, it's, wrestling's not following you home, which is probably the best way to say it, right?
I try. It's difficult. Balance is definitely something that a lot of people within the industry have struggled with, and I struggle with it myself. And it's, it's a daily, it requires attention daily. Sometimes you do well with it, and other times, you don't. So just try to have the batting average be as positive as possible.
Of course. All right, so let's get into some of the fun questions. Get into like some of the
Yes, sir.
memories. Tell me about your first ever match in pro wrestling.
Oh, geez. Oh boy. To think back to that, I believe it was. I could have some of the details wrong, but I believe it was a triple threat match, and it was two guys that I trained with off and on. Tony DeVito trained me, and they were two gentlemen. Guillaume Sade, I believe he was wrestling as, and Hale Collins. And we got booked. Well, actually, that would have been my second match. If I count the first match, it was a battle royal. So let's just not even go there. Like, we won't even count the first one. So it was that triple threat. That would have been the second one against those two gentlemen. And I don't know. I'm sure it was not good. I know that I wore a pair of old school, like IKA martial arts kickboxing satin pants. That's all I had. And I had some kick pads off of High Spots that were awful that I wore. So I don't really remember much beyond that. But yeah, that was it. And it was somewhere in Massachusetts, I believe.
All right, that's fine. All right. So tell me what made you become a pro wrestling fan. What in it that you fell in love with?
My dad watched it, so I think it was something I was exposed to, just being a kid watching TV with my dad. And then as I got older, I really got into martial arts when I was around 8 years old, and I remember Ricky Steamboat immediately caught my attention. He was doing his WWF run at the time, and it was when, everything in pop culture was ninjas, and WWE, always kind of being on the cutting. I don't know if cutting edge is the right phrase, but always kind of being up on their pop culture. That's who Steamboat became. I didn't know who Steamboat really was prior to that, the years feuding with Flair and stuff, when he was like, he was a wrestler. So I just knew him as this ninja, and he was jacked, and all these things that drew me in as a kid. So Steamboat was somebody that really captured my attention. And then I would say probably the Bulldogs. I'm not the tallest guy in the world, so Dynamite Kid really kind of captured my attention right away because he was so athletic and almost like a gymnast. And those were two people that I don't know that I started to think like, okay, I want to do this. I just know it captured my attention, and then I wanted to keep going back, to see more.
All right, very cool. I get it. It's all about falling in love with that one or two wrestlers that you can, really get behind, and then you love the storylines, and then you love what else keeps going on around that setting. So it's really cool. Let's talk about more about when you started getting into like the big TV stuff, and that I believe that was Ring of Honor, right? That was probably the first like big break you had, right? Or I could be wrong.
Yeah, I would say my first like real shot at making a living and stuff was when I started working in Japan for Pro Wrestling Noah.
Of course.
So it was televised there, but it did not, was not televised here. So for probably about 5 years, I was on TV, it was in another country, and then I would come home and do independence and whatnot here. So it was kind of a tale of two worlds for a little while, but then I had a few run-ins with Ring of Honor, previous incarnations of Ring of Honor, and like I would do a dark, or I would have a tryout, and for whatever reason things didn't work out. It was right before, it was the HD Net days. I had a flirtation with a contract, and then it wasn't until the Sinclair broadcasting days where I went back and ended up getting a job. And that was the first time that a salary was offered to me. I won't throw a number out there, but it was enough where I was like, wait a second, I can, you mean I can, like, this can be my real job?
So I'm curious, have you worked somewhere while you were wrestling? Was that something you've done?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I was working for Noah, and that being the biggest opportunity I had, when they wanted me to come, I had to be available. So at that time, I was bartending. There was a time in there too where I owned a bar. When I had first gotten started wrestling, I was partners in a bar, and independent wrestling requires you Friday and Saturday nights, so that things didn't match real well, and having to be able to drop things and go to Japan when they needed me wasn't working. So I have a bachelor's degree in English, so I was doing substitute teaching.
Awesome.
Because I would work Monday through Friday, and if I did get booked for a tour that was going to take me away for a month, I didn't even have to speak to a human. I could just put it into the system that I wasn't available, and I, just didn't get jobs. So substitute teaching and independent wrestling, and starting to get my foot in the door with Ring of Honor, and still going back and forth to Noah. That was kind of a time frame where I was just burning both ends of the candle, making ends meet.
Wow. So I know I was going to leave this question for when we got up to the New Japan part of this interview, but I completely forgot that you did wrestle in Noah. And how did that come up? Because like you said, that is your first big break. I agree. New Japan Noah was amazing. A lot of amazing stars came out of there. How did you even get that call?
Through Harley Race. I went to a camp, and the camps are numerous. And lots of people have connections, whether it be WWE or other places, and a lot of it. I'm not gonna lie, man. There's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of independent guys who get sold a dream, and and it doesn't happen for them. But it's just the law of averages, I guess, because it's if they're completely BSing people. You gotta gamble on yourself, and I did in this instance, and it really kind of worked out for me because the Japanese office that was there, they noticed me and they liked me, and what I thought was supposed to be a 3-month stay in the dojo to be a young boy, and train, was actually an invitation to come and work. I was only 5 years in, so I didn't think I was, and when I got my itinerary, it was only a 3-week, round trip. So I thought there was a mistake. And then Harley said, I don't know what's going on, but you're going over for 3 weeks. And when I got there, they immediately, I was there for 24 hours, and I was on Samurai TV that evening with my first match against Atsushi Aoki.
Wow.
The late. He passed away recently. But yeah, and he was awesome. So awesome. It's amazing to think.
Amazing. No, I agree. Like I said, so many stars come out of there, and Noah is really good. New Japan Noah is amazing, and I know it's one of those things where having that be your first, real break is so exciting, because it's like, how was the crowd like? How were you as a tourist basically viewing, different country? How was that like?
It was. I was way into martial arts as a kid growing up. So if you had told me that I was going to go to Japan ever, I'd have been like, you're crazy. But to look back now and to know I've made 50, 60 some odd trips to Japan, made I don't know how much money there, but a good amount. And just been exposed to the culture and the people, and what wrestling is there, what martial arts is there, what combat sports is there. Again, it's very humbling. And just for a kid who barely been outside of New York State to be in another country like that, as often and able to see as much as I did was, if it all ended tomorrow, it was worth it for that experience alone.
Amazing. All right. So we did get to Ring of Honor, and I still want to talk more about that. How was it meeting Kyle O'Reilly? Adam Cole, because that's where that's where Undisputed Era really made all their noise. Over Red Dragon becoming a tag team when you guys had your tag team match against Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. So much happened there. You had your match with Adam Cole there. Chemistry was amazing. How was that like? Creating that bond with your friends.
Kyle and I had known each other previous through actually, again, a Harley camp that he went to, because I went back a few years after to help out with the camp, because I knew some of the Japanese and was working there. And so Kyle had come to a camp. That was when we met. And then we ran into each other numerous times on Independence and different things. Ring of Honor, it was their idea. It was Hunter Delirious. It was his idea. I got to give him credit for putting Kyle and I together. And it was a way to break Kyle away from Davey, because they were making that split and they were looking to get Davey and Eric back together, Eddie Edwards back together. And so there needed to be an antagonist, and it just seemed to fit, like, for me to come in and kind of, just help Kyle poke Davey and be the guy that kind of needled Davey even more. And that was kind of the catalyst for what ended up being Red Dragon. And I don't think we realized, I don't think Hunter realized the chemistry we'd have right away. But it was, I don't want to say instant, but I'd say within 3 meetings or 3 outings or whatever you want to call it. And they weren't even all matches. There might have been 1 match and a promo and one other thing. And it was just, the ideas, you just hit that flow state, and like, he had ideas, I had ideas. My buddy George had ideas, and they were endless. Yeah, it was fun.
Amazing. Like I said, Red Dragon, that chemistry you can't recreate. You guys are one of the most dominant tag teams. I remember watching live you guys wrestling in Japan, and then remember a couple weeks after you wrestled at Ring of Honor against the Time Splitters, and that was just the chemistry there. It's amazing. You remember that match?
I do. We had good chemistry with the Time Splitters. We had good chemistry with the Bucks. So we had great chemistry with the Bucks. I don't want to understate that. We had good chemistry with a lot of people, and I think when your chemistry as a team is as strong as Kyle and my chemistry was, you ended up in that scenario more times than not, where like you could just mesh well with other teams. There was a time with New Japan where it could have been Rocky and Trent. It could have been Rocky and Kozlov. It could have been the Bucks. It could have been Ricochet and Seidel. It almost didn't matter. We all, like, any combination of those teams, like with one another or with us, like, I don't know, we just had a groove going.
Yeah, that time, Best of Super Junior, Best of Tag League must have been crazy. But one thing I do want to talk about is because you brought up Noah, and that is a good opportunity, a great phenomenal start. New Japan is the big leagues, NJPW. That's like the WWE, that's like the big leagues in Japan. So how was it when you found out you're gonna be wrestling there? and that you're going to be there for many tours.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I started working for Noah, I believe had almost eclipsed New Japan, All Japan at that time, and like it seemed as if Noah, because of the mass exodus of Misawa and others from, I believe it would have been All Japan at that time. When Noah first started, hence the name of Noah, like Noah's Ark, there was a mass exodus of all this talent, was at least to me, it was told like, and I didn't have my bearings really when it came to Japanese wrestling, but that was the biggest, like that was the place to work. And it seemed to be that way for like 3-4 years. When I started working Ring of Honor, New Japan had kind of retaken that top slot. And when they were interested in Kyle and I coming over as a tag team, and it was initially to face the Time Splitters, you know, I my work with Noah had slowed down at that time. I hadn't been over in a while, and I had that blessing from their office to see what this new endeavor would be. And then New Japan was more than I could have even asked for. We ended up for 2 years being there almost every month.
That's again, like, what a portfolio of places you wrestled. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing just hearing all these stories, hearing the fact that you were all in all these places. Something I do want to discuss is, you know, Ring of Honor at the time, you know, that roster was at its peak. And like every generation has a roster. I believe there was a Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, CM Punk roster. Then there was, you know, you guys in the Undisputed Era. Then there was Christopher Daniels, Cody, Young Bucks. Now there's Jonathan Gresham, Jay Lethal, you know, and a whole bunch of other generational Ring of Honor stars. How was it when you all got the call, when all four of you got the call saying where you guys are going to go to WWE? Like, did you all discuss it when your contracts all expired? Did you all discuss, like, hey, we're going to all debut, you know, together, Roddy will come a little bit after? Or was this just like you all accepted and then you all found out there that was what was going to happen?
Roddy was already there.
Mm-hmm.
Roddy had left Ring of Honor and was with NXT, I believe, just over or under a year at the time. Kyle's contract, Adam's contract were coming up. Mine was coming up. You know, it was a lot of figuring out at the time, and we all went in separately.
Mm-hmm.
Even Kyle and I weren't necessarily going in as a team. And then as things started to fill out, there was obviously with the three of us, we had discussed, being Adam, Kyle, and I think it'd be pretty cool if we did a group, but, you know, what are the odds? And there was actually a time in Ring of Honor where they were building to Kyle and Adam's Final Battle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And during that, there was a small left turn, we'll call it, where the three of us ended up as a group. And it was just to lead to them getting, you know, more heat on Kyle and Adam.
Mm-hmm.
But that night in the arena that we were in, it just something felt special about it. And I had hoped, like, okay, well, maybe we can just give this thing a name and sell some T-shirts, and maybe we run it for a couple weeks longer or a month longer than was planned,
Mm-hmm.
just to sell some T-shirts and, you know, see what happens. But it didn't, you know, it didn't come to be, which is understandable. I mean, they were building to, you know, the Final Battle thing with Kyle and Adam was planned for over a year. So, but it's serendipitous that we come to WWE, and when they told, you know, we thought maybe there was a chance Kyle and I being a tag,
Mm-hmm.
but when the option of us being a group, and then us, you know, debuting TakeOver Brooklyn as a rogue entity was like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'll speak for Adam and Kyle and myself when I say, like, I think we were all waiting for like the other shoe to drop. Like, okay, somebody's going to step in here and tell us this is a joke. So it really, I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better way to come in.
No, yeah, people, I don't like to compare, but this is definitely a respectful comparison. You guys are, and kind of resemble the Shield. The Shield was always one of the most popular units, one of the most popular factions, and people always talk about how they debuted, how they powerbombed Ryback and everything, how their story started with a really big bang. And same with yours. You guys went right after, the NXT champion at the time, and you guys made a name for yourselves really, really quick. How was it already being in the ring during that moment, the pop of the crowd? Because everyone knew who you guys were. It wasn't one of those things where it's like, who is that? Like, people don't have any question. People knew that all of you were from Ring of Honor. People all knew that you guys are stars. And to see you guys there after rumors and months of questioning what's going to go on, what's happening, how was that like, hearing the big pop?
I think part of that electricity is kind of the, I don't want to call it the drug that we all keep going back for, but that's, that's kind of what it is. You say stars and I think the four of us, including Roddy, have always been four guys who respected and loved this business and loved being a pro wrestler and whatever that meant. And I think we all still to this day take pride in the fact that we're workhorses. Like, give us as much of the load as you see fit for us to carry, because we'll carry it. And but in those moments, and you're debuting, and it's going to be the three of, and you have your doubts. Humans have insecurities, and I think while we were waiting to go out, Kyle and I were gonna come out at an earlier segment in the show, and it was like, is anybody gonna know who the fuck we are? Like, you don't know until you know. And to then follow that up with the after the main event, doing the part with Adam and the pop being even bigger, and then standing at the top of the stage and having people do the Adam Cole baby in unison with him, which was even further confirmation that, like, we know exactly who the three of you are, was pretty special, and again, just beyond humbling, It was definitely, one of the career highlights for sure.
That's amazing. So, and I'm sorry, I keep on saying it's amazing, but like, truly, every time I hear something new, like, about this conversation, I'm just speechless at this point. This is all because, as like a fan, we get one side, but then as I get to actually talk to you about it, it's cool to hear your reaction, hear your thoughts on how you thought going into it, and then coming out of it, just not knowing what you were gonna get yourself into, not knowing how the crowd's gonna react to you. It's just amazing to hear that. So, when you first signed that contract, you're going to go to WWE, did you hope that, you already said you wanted to be in a tag team, but did you hope that they put you in that tag team with Kyle, or did you believe you might go singles?
I think, I know for me, and Kyle and I talked about it, I think, I don't want to speak for him. I believe we were on the same page at the time, if I remember our conversations correctly. But I know that I thought tagging would be our strongest look, so to speak. And it was where I think we were both super comfortable. However, our last year or more in Ring of Honor, they had kind of split us up so that they could do the thing with Adam and Kyle. And that was actually, ironically, when Roddy and I got into our thing for the TV title, and I got an unexpected push in New Japan, working with Shibata, which would eventually add a little bit more gasoline on the flame for Kyle and Shibata. So, like, I think we were both very comfortable in our singles mask at the time, but I think we both too, we had had a couple indie dates before we were going to go to NXT, and we got to tag again. And, you know, as expected, the chemistry, I mean, it didn't even skip a beat. It was just there again. And so, I mean, I'll say for myself, selfishly, like, yeah, I wanted to tag because I thought, like, it's just fun. I have my most fun when we're tagging.
All right. So another thing, just because we're going in order, I want to get to the Undisputed Era stuff. Now that time has went by and you can talk about the stuff. When was Roddy scheduled to join? We got to see it after he turned on Pete, but how long did you guys know that he was gonna do this? Because he's one of your best friends. To have him join the group, how was that? The news, how did that come out?
I don't think there's anybody else in the company who could have joined the group, honestly, looking back. When they decided they wanted to give us a fourth, I don't know if it was completely just a reaction to my ACL injury, or if there was a plan for that prior. I don't know. The timing was literally right after I tore my ACL. And we weren't going to say no, but if our opinion was asked and they were to have said to us, hey, is there anybody in the company that Roddy would have been the unanimous choice? So for them to launch, again, it's another one of those serendipitous where it was like, please, yes. And I think, the Undisputed Era had a little bit different look at that time with Roddy coming in, and there was an adjustment for sure. And then once I was healthy and could come back, there was another adjustment because they had such great chemistry between the three of them. And then I was coming back into the fold, and then it took a little bit of time for the chemistry of the four of us to work itself out. But at every facet and every turn, it just seemed to, it was like we couldn't help but bat 1,000 when the four of us were together.
Yeah, going into that, you guys participated in more than one War Games matches, and I gotta know, I don't think anyone's ever spoke about this. How was it like participating in a War Games?
I grew up being a big fan of the Crockett years of WCW, lesser known as the NWA, and blah, blah, blah. So when Dusty and the Horsemen and Nikita Koloff and Sting, and they were like legendary for these War Games matches, I grew up on those. And the War Games were probably my favorite gimmick. So for the relaunch of those, and I know Hunter and Sean were big fans of the War Games in that incarnation as well. So for them to bring it back the way that they did, and then for us to be the spearhead of that, and then not only the spearhead of the first one, but then to be in every one of this new incarnation. Like the Undisputed Era is synonymous with War Games when it comes to NXT. There is no War Games without us. That's, again, I hate to keep using the same phrase, but just so humbling to know that, like, there are kids that watched these War Games the same way I did. I mean, I wore out those VHS tapes. And the War Games, like in the way that the Horsemen, to me, as a kid, were synonymous with War Games. I feel like, we got to be that. And I'll be endlessly, thankful to Hunter and Shawn Michaels for allowing us to be that. I have such gratitude to them.
Well, let's talk about the spots in there, because I'm sure that's the first time you've done anything like that. And it's one of those things where when you're scheduled to do a War Games, you got to know that you're going to go in there and you're going to be a different person coming out just because of what you're going to be doing in that match. What was your, opinion, your idea, your thoughts literally in the match? Seeing some of the biggest spots, seeing, people, just wrestle in a different way than you've ever seen. How was that like? Were you ever worried at any point at any War Games match?
Yeah, I think you're concerned the whole time because it's always dangerous. And obviously with a match like that, the risk is even more. But at some point in every match, and especially those like, that flow state takes over and you have to just settle into it. And then you're moving through your paces because that's just how we do what we do. And there's times where you can be in awe of certain things because, something goes wrong or something goes right. And, but you really don't have a lot of time to take too much in, you can take it in after, but during, like, you just kind of got to go.
So something I gotta talk about is with Undisputed Era and in general with you is ring gear. I definitely think the gear that you wear is the way people look at you. Like if you wear really great gear, you know what? Then you're a main event star. You look like a star. You go in there a star. What did you think of like all the gear ideas that you guys had, the camo? And I know, and I'm sure after that match, you've seen so many people post about it. I'm sure you've seen how social media reacted just for the first ever time you guys, really did like this really cool like fraction, like different change from the yellow and black type of thing. How was that like? And then you did the red gear, then you did the green gear. How was just the gear like? Like, how did you feel about, creating gear like that?
The four of us always kind of put our ideas together, and we were definitely a democracy, and everybody had input. And we just wanted to make something special each time. And the first one, after doing the first one, when we did our regular gear, the second one, we thought the camo would just be, it's war. We thought like army fatigues, but doing it in our style would be kind of cool. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. Like every year after, it was like, okay, well, we can't just leave it, there. Like people expect something different. So each year we did it after, we were like, okay, let's do something special. And let's make it special. And it's a one-time thing, like where it's our War Games gear. And I think that made, I know me as a fan growing up, that I loved that kind of stuff. And I loved that, like in the bunkhouse matches or whatever, like Arn and Tully would be wearing T-shirts and, jeans and taped fists. And it was different, something different. This is all, it's all part of the spectacle. And so I like those little details myself as a fan. So I wanted to check those boxes. And I think Adam, Kyle, and Roddy did too. So
amazing. So, you had 3. What was your favorite War Games match? What was the one that you really enjoyed from whatever reason that you have?
I have reasons why I enjoyed all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the one that's sticking out to me right now, and I don't know why, you could ask me this tomorrow and it might change, but is it was Ricochet, Viking Raiders, Pete, Tommaso. I don't. I should really have a better memory than I do.
But it was a 4-4. It was the Viking Raiders, Pete and Ricochet against you 4.
Okay, that one for whatever reason right now is sticking out because I remember this one moment, and I think that's what pro wrestling is at its best, is when you're creating moments. It's not just move for move and this thing to that thing. It's moments. And we had a face-off after we'd beaten the hell out of each other for however long, where every member walked from 2 different rings and then faced off at each other, all nose to nose. And I think that may go down as my favorite moment in the War Games that we created. So I'm going to say that one, but
all right.
Like I said, if you ask me tomorrow, it might be a different one.
Interesting. Okay, we'll take that. We'll take that with a grain of salt. Was that improvised, that moment where you all stood there watching each other? Was that like an improvised moment, or I mean, I'm sure a lot of things was definitely improvised because you can't plan an entire match. But that moment, was that like planned at any point, or did you guys just in sync with each other?
I think that it was talked about. I don't know that it was like paint by numbers, like, oh, okay, and at this time we're gonna do this. I think there was a little bit of improvisation. I think pro wrestling, again, at its best, is in that improvisational place is when it's best. But you can't necessarily improv all of it. So I think we did part of that on feel, and it was something that we all knew, like, hey, if it's there, we're going to it. And I do remember distinctly in that match feeling like having the moment kind of come over all of us and looking at each other. And I think we didn't say it, we didn't verbalize, but everybody knew, like, oh, that moment's here. Like, we got to take it. And we did.
That's crazy. So, I there's so much to talk about with Undisputed Era, and we'll be here forever if we do. But the main thing was I want to address is for War Games, the last one, it's rumor. They don't really tell you this stuff. You just gotta assume at this point. Where did you injure yourself with your shoulder, your arm? Was that
oh yeah,
that was
yeah.
at
I
War
had
Games.
surgery. I had surgery that evening. I tore my tricep is what it was called. But it was actually that my tricep was severed. So I had a big laceration on my elbow in that match, and whatever it was that caused the laceration cut through the skin and cut deep enough that it actually severed part of my tricep tendon from the bone. So people will tear their tricep, but it'll be, a tear, like it'll be ripped away. Mine was like cut away, like as if you took a pair of scissors or an X-Acto knife and like chopped it. And that happened maybe 10 minutes into the match. So like, I didn't know the extent of the injury. I just knew like, something doesn't feel right back there. However, part of it was still attached. So, cause I thought like, man, did I tear my tricep? But it hadn't rolled up the way that you would expect a tear to roll up. So I didn't think that was the case. It wasn't until the match was over and Tara, one of our medical staff, was cleaning out my elbow to make sure there was no infection. And she noticed, because where she was looking, she should have seen tendon, and instead she saw bone and knew like, okay, obviously knowing anatomy with her education, a tendon was supposed to be covering the bone she was seeing. And she's like, okay, your tendon's not attached. So I went into what would amount to emergency surgery. It was supposed to be that evening. It ended up being the following morning. But yeah.
Terrible. But how did you feel? You felt it, you said you felt it in the first 10 minutes. How did you, obviously when you're a wrestler, there's a rule that like you keep going. You can't break, unless it's like something where you literally can't move, then you gotta wave the X. But how did you keep going with the match? Because that's it's one of those things where that's probably the worst place and the worst time to injure yourself. You know what I mean?
It's not the smartest outlook, but I think since I was a child, and it's maybe a generation past, but I grew up playing football and lacrosse and doing kickboxing, and like, you played hurt. And the generation of pro wrestling that I came up in, like, you played hurt as well. So unless it was debilitating to the point where like you couldn't walk or whatever, like you got on with it, and then you addressed it after. And that's just the way it goes. And like, you had so much that went into that match, and so many other people involved, and it was there was at no point was there any thought on my part, like, okay, I'm going to get out of this match. Like, no, it's got to be finished, and then we'll figure it out.
Have you told anyone? Like, again, due to like, being such a veteran in the business. I'm sure you know how to communicate with wrestlers as you're wrestling. That's one of the biggest skills you guys need in that category. Have you told anyone like during the match like, hey, you gotta take it a little easy because this can become a bigger injury? Had that been a thought, or you just said I'm gonna keep quiet with this? And I'm just gonna wait till when I get to the back.
I may have shared some concern with somebody, but I don't think there was anything because, if somebody else with that information isn't necessarily going to be focused on that either. So it's just kind of, I knew that I could still move. So just be where you got to be and do what you need to do. Just get through the match. Still, you're still focused on making it as good as possible. So you just try not to get in your own head.
All right. I mean, hey, look, this is why we're talking about it, because this is one of those things that people are gonna watch and they'll be like, I cannot believe this happened. I didn't even know this happened. It's gonna be one of the greatest conversations they've ever heard, just because of how memorable that moment is, and just look back at it, like not everyone could do what you did, and I think that's the crazy part.
I don't know, man. There's people that are curing cancer, so not that there's been a cure yet, but there's people out there doing work that's really gonna change humanity and then change this world. I do my work in what amounts to underwear, so
I mean, you gotta understand that you're
I
helping
appreciate
out
it, though.
that one person.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, but you have to understand also, and this is like wrestlers do understand this, that you're helping out that one person who doesn't want to live life anymore, but watching you is like an inspiration. You know what I mean? Like there are so many role models and heroes, and that word could be tossed around different ways. But I'm sure someone out, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that look at you and they're like, he's a big part of who I am and what I'm about, and just the lessons I've learned and stuff like that.
Well, again, I mean, that in and of itself, beyond any actual like wrestling accolade and crowd reaction and et cetera, is more humbling than anything, because to think that somebody could be going through some kind of struggle and take some inspiration from what honestly sometimes to me is somewhat ridiculous, because it's like, it's something I've been doing since I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
All of us did it as a kid. It's what kids know to do, is kind of mimic these things that they see and are enamored by. So to think that could have sort of impact on somebody else that's struggling with a dark moment is humbling, because I have dark moments myself. So yeah, that's truly humbling.
Yeah, we're all humans. We all need each other's back. We all need one person needs it to feel them. The other person needs it just to feel like they matter and that they're something for them. So one last thing I do want to talk about with the whole Undisputed Era stuff is it's got to be difficult to have an idea, have a plan, and then get injured. Like you said earlier, the whole Roderick Strong thing, there are ideas that it could have happened, and it happened because you were out of action, and that, they resulted to different ideas. When you got injured, during War Games, were you worried? Or were you worried about what they would do after, how they would put you in, what can happen in the months, storylines change any week. So it's like, were you ever worried that they can like split you guys up, or that they'll have a different creative team with a creative process, creative ideas?
We really didn't know, and there was some confusion on my end as to how long I was going to be out. So initially, the recovery was said to me to be about 6 weeks, which seemed, not very long, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
After the surgeon had described what they had to actually do. Turns out there was a bit of a miscommunication, and the recovery was actually 13 weeks minimum. So yeah, having things change a little bit, there was a concern for like, well, what are we going to do? But we were involved in a pretty solid storyline at the time, going forward with Pat McAfee. And so I think not knowing where things were going to go exactly, but knowing that it was going to be something with that would keep us, I think we were all pretty confident that would keep us together. However, things change, and that had some speed bumps and hiccups, and so things did end up changing, and that was kind of, I don't know exactly, but I think that led eventually to them coming to the conclusion that maybe coming back to the idea of splitting us up again, and ultimately that's where it went. I don't think it had anything to do with the injury, and again, the injury was kind of a freak injury. It literally, a piece of the cage cutting deep enough to sever a tendon is just, it's like 1 in a million, and you get sent into the cage and you either take it with your face or you put an arm up to take it with an arm. And that's how it happened, so it wasn't a triple corkscrew flip going through a table. It wasn't an egregious risk. It was something very normal. So really just kind of the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose.
No, yeah, completely understandable. Something I do want to just, and I know starting off in the interview, you talked about how WWE is something that, you're truly honored by, and that, you're humbled that you did it, and you only have great things to say. I'm very curious about, your just opinion on your last few months there, how they used you in the process of how they booked your matches, how they, created your character. With the whole Adam and Kyle, beef thing, it kind of felt like you were just put in there, which you obviously should have been because you're a member. You're one of you're the OG member. You had to be consulted. You had to have a story in there. Did you like the way they were creating your character in those few months they were there?
No. Nope.
All right. And did you think you could have done? I mean, look, I'm not trying to get any I don't want you. Look, you're allowed to say whatever you want. So I just want you to understand it. And did you think you could have done more as a solo? What would you? Did you have any idea? Because I know usually wrestlers want to pitch an idea or two, and I'm sure you have a creative mind where you would have been like, maybe we could do something else. Did you have any idea of what you would want to have done? After the Undisputed era kind of went their own ways and probably would have met back up later. Did you have any ideas of what you would have wanted to do?
I'll say this: I am capable of much more than what came my way, and it just is what it is. But the capacity to do more is certainly there, and any thought of there not being that capacity would maybe come from the fact that, being in the group, one of the keys to being in the group was fitting into the group and doing what was asked of you to be part of the group. So I think having, a keen sense for being that maybe dulled down some of the shine that maybe wasn't seen by some people that needed to see it in order to think that it was there. And I can assure you, 100% that it's there, but it wasn't really utilized.
Well, that's why we're talking about this now, and that's what the future holds. Because now we're in a completely different world. You're coming back. There are companies everywhere now. There's Impact Wrestling. There's All Elite Wrestling. There's New Japan. There's places you've already been, places you haven't been yet. first place we want to talk about is Major League Wrestling. That's where you're going to be debuting this Saturday, live. So you're going to be in the Opera Cup. That is one of the most prestige cups, tournaments ever. How do you feel about participating in that and with the roster that you're potentially going to be versing?
I'm excited. There's lots of interesting matchups there. Some people I'm not overly familiar with, but who I've checked out. And then some people I'm very familiar with, and I know their styles and mine will kind of make things interesting. And I know their styles and with each other will make things interesting. So as a fan, I'm excited. And I'm just excited to be part of a tournament like that because I think it really caters to not only my strengths, but I think it's, for lack of a better cliche, it's my cup of tea.
All right, that's great. And the roster they have is amazing. You said you did some research. What is a few names that you want to face in MLW? What are the bookings that you would like to have?
I mean, right off the top, like I'd love to get in there again with Tom Lawler. Tom was actually my last one of my last independent matches before going to NXT. I think the last, but if not the last, second to last, definitely last singles. So Tom, for sure. TJP, we had a match back at Battle of Los Angeles, I think. It was definitely for PWG. I want to say it was a tournament setting, but like I always felt like he and I had some pretty good chemistry. So TJP for sure. Yeah, I mean, just looking forward to that tournament all the way around.
Yeah, it's one of those things where everyone you're facing in that tournament deserves to be in that tournament. So you're going up against the same level, that you're going to be at. So it's one of those things where, are you prepared? Have you been doing, the work that you got to be for this Saturday? Do you feel like you're ready?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always, I lead with my Muay Thai, and that's my strongest suit. And I think that's the thing that separates me from other people in this business. Most educated feet in professional wrestling. Like it's not just because it sounds good. Like I truly believe it, because I've trained martial arts since I was 8 years old. And like in that regard, I don't fake the funk with that. And I think this tournament is all about that. Yeah, it's I'm prepared for sure.
That's awesome. And this would be your second match back in the independent scene. This would be your second match back as a free agent, right? Because you had one match in the same arena, actually, right?
It'll actually be third. It'll be my third.
Oh, so I know about the 2300 match they had in the arena, the same arena a few weeks ago. What was your first match?
There was one the weekend before that in Pennsylvania, but it was not Philly. I flew into Philly, but then we drove some direction about 2 hours from there. And then the Philly booking came about like really last minute. I didn't expect it. It came together within 24 hours. And then next thing you know, I was on a flight going back to Pennsylvania. So, yeah, this will be my third.
Wow. So how was your first match back? How was that like? Because I'm sure you probably had a few like nervous, moments talking about like everyone's about to see you come back, and I'm sure you had opinions of how people would, cheer, boo. What would be the reaction they would have? I'm sure the whole point is you want to have a pop. And when you don't have a pop, it's always like, did I do something wrong, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's a certain amount of, when you've done this, like you're never not nervous But I think having done this for as long as I have, like, you reach a point in your career too where it's like, okay, I'm pulling the strings here, and like I'm looking for reaction, but I don't. There's not just one reaction I need. So when I get the reaction, whatever it is, I'm going to cater the next move according to that, and so on and so forth. And then that's how you kind of paint the empty canvas that you walk out there to.
That's awesome. So the one thing I do want to address is what what's the future looking like, and you have many new places like Impact Wrestling. The forbidden door, I love using that word because it means so much more than what people think it is. It's just wrestlers crossing over different paths, and it's companies finally being open to crossover. And I know Ring of Honor was always open with New Japan, and I love how New Japan was always open to Ring of Honor. Have you had any thoughts? This isn't like not questioning you, but have you ever had any thoughts to possibly go to New Japan Strong, since they are in the States, they're doing their thing, and they're striving. Something that came up during COVID. It's something that they decided to do and keep going with. And Ring of Honor is definitely opening up to other places as well. So is that anything ever been an idea of something you're doing in the future?
There's nobody that I haven't talked to that has been interested. So like all possibilities are still I don't know exactly at this point. I'm still kind of piecing together as I go, because that seems to make the most sense right now. And as the opportunities come in, whichever ones fit the best are kind of the direction that we're going.
All right, perfect. I like to hear that. I like to hear that that's the way you're looking at it, whichever one fits you. And something I definitely wanted to talk about, and I'm not gonna get too much into it, is did you speak to Adam when you both when you left first, then he left as well? His country ended a little bit earlier. A little bit later. Did you and him discuss? Did you guys talk about? Because I know the Undisputed Era, it doesn't work unless you're all a part of it. But I'm sure you guys had some conversations about what the future holds for both of you. Did you and him discuss after both of you left the company?
Yeah, it's no secret. The four of us are legitimately close. So whether we work for the same company or not, we all still communicate with each other. So yeah, there's been conversations between Roddy and me, and Adam and Kyle, and me and Kyle, and Adam and Roddy, and myself and Adam. And those conversations never end. They're my friends. So yeah, it's and I just want to see success come to each of us and everybody to be happy. And I know from what I've seen of Adam on AEW so far, he looks happy. And the conversations we've had have confirmed those suspicions that he is happy. And that's, that makes me happy for him, for my friend.
Of course. Something I do want to talk about, and it's because you weren't silent when you kind of had your time off. You definitely wanted to leave the drama, because I'm sure as soon as you left the drama, I'm sure there were reports, I'm sure there were this, and I'm sure you wanted to stay away from all that, because that's not healthy to read or look at due to the time that you had time off. I know you went to Disneyland, and I know all that. You posted a little bit on social media, and when NXT I believe 2.0 first aired, you posted a thing with Undisputed. You posted a thing with Kyle. You wished Kyle the best. Good luck to him, because he had a big match. He had a main event match, and I don't know what happened there with NXT, but how did you such a vague question, because it's easy to just figure out how you felt, but is it something that you thought would happen in a scenario where they would have went a different approach. If that makes sense. I don't even know if that question even made sense, to be honest.
Lon, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't hear the last part of that question.
It was basically, how did you react seeing that they pulled that stunt? I want to say they pulled that stunt, or they went a different approach at the moment.
I mean, what I posted was nothing more than just in support of my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew, he had a big match coming that night, and I knew I'd be watching. My stepdaughter loves watching NXT, and she knows the boys, and she said, like, Kyle's got a big match tonight. So yeah, we were going to be watching, and I was supporting him. What they ended up doing, I don't know. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it's not my place to, armchair quarterback it. So it kind of is what it is. It was unfortunate. I wanted to see him just because I like watching him wrestle. So I would have liked to have seen him work that night, but it wasn't what they had going, just is what it is.
Of course. And I do want to end off the interview talking a little bit more about MLW, and it is what's the contract? Are you full-time? Are we going to see you full-time with MLW, or is this one of those, rare sightings of, Bobby Fish at MLW?
We're all options are open.
Mm-hmm.
All options are open, and I know we're doing the Opera Cup this weekend, and that's where I'm focused. I'm not really looking beyond anything at this point beyond that.
And one more thing I want to mention is, with the Opera Cup, the amount of talent you have, like Davey Richards, Alex Shelley. These are names that you wrestled throughout generations, throughout different points in your life. So it's, how does it feel to kind of see old friends, if that's the right term I'm going with?
I mean, the two names you just mentioned, for sure. This won't be the first time we've wrestled if we get matched up again, and I have fond memories of matches with both of the gentlemen you just mentioned. So if we get a chance to lock it up again, I'm not mad at it at all.
Oh, all right. And final words is, anyone watching this who are, about to watch this Saturday, anyone that's interested, what are your final thoughts? Like, if I gave you like a minute to just speak off, what would be your final thoughts for MLW, Fightland?
It's a huge event for MLW, and it's a huge event for me personally, coming back. And like I said, this is kind of in my wheelhouse, and I think it provides one hell of a platform for me to show my style of professional wrestling. Pro wrestling is that kind of thing where you can add a ton of your creativity to it, and that is the thing that excites me the most at this point, because I have no limitations, and I can just go out there and paint with the brush I choose to paint with, and I'm excited about that.
Phenomenal. Awesome. This was such an unreal experience. Definitely,
I appreciate it, man. You're making an old guy blush.
You have no idea, because it's like I grew up watching you, and this was even before WWE. This was Ring of Honor days, and it's to finally interview someone like you. I never thought I'd get the chance to. So
I appreciate it, man.
It's amazing. How can people follow you now that you're back? Now that you're open to talk to everybody, and the opportunities are there. How can people follow you? How can people send you information? Get you on opportunities.
I'm on Instagram and Twitter, both at the Bobby Fish. I don't know who has Bobby Fish, but I haven't been able to get that ever. So it's the THE Bobby Fish. And there's Messenger and stuff in there. So that's always an easy way to get me if you're looking for booking or whatnot. But yeah, those are probably the two that are easiest.
Awesome. Do you have a merch? I know you just did the new. I forgot what it is. It's not. You also have Cameo, but I know you also have this new one that High Spots is in charge of, or.
No, so it's Pro Wrestling Tees.
Oh, Pro Wrestling Tees.
I have a Pro Wrestling Tees store, and that is Pro Wrestling Tees / Bobby Fish. And there is a shoot message link there as well. And it works similar. So you can log on there and get a what they're calling a shoot message from me. And we got T-shirts, we got videos, you name it.
All right, and I'll definitely put all that information, in the bio below, so anyone who missed it can look at it, and the links will be there. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Bobby, for coming on. Stay with me after we get off the air. I just want to ask you a few things, and and just thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you everyone for listening.
Cool. Thank you.